What's up, business baddies? I'm Rima, and you are now tuned in to The Remix, where being overbooked is overrated and simple businesses are sexy. Today, we're gonna talk all about pricing. You have asked me so many questions in my DMs, and I'm really grateful for all the questions that you submitted. I'm literally gonna look at my notes, read the question out loud from your submissions on Instagram, and go into depth. So be sure to stay to the end of this video because I'm gonna get into every single question that you submitted and answer it in full detail. So the first question that I got, I actually combined two different questions because they're kind of related. It's how much should I take market value into consideration? And how much should I study my competition? I love this question. My response is that you should totally take market value into some consideration, and you should totally study your competition. So with that being said, I've mentioned this in a previous video, but I'll bring it up again just because I think it helps really put some perspective into this conversation. This razor is less than $2. This razor is more than $300. There is not a $380 whatever dollar difference between these two razors, and I can guarantee you of that fact. There is not a $380 or even $100 difference between the products or the manufacturing costs or just there's not a $100 difference between these products as far as the actual value boils down to. Are they giving a $400 experience to their customers? Maybe. So just whenever you get insecure about how you are positioning yourself in the market, just remember that the market has a ton of variance in how people can be priced. Whether this is for services or products, there is a huge range in where you can sit. And so when I do recommend studying your competition and validating your market, it's really just to decide how you want to be positioned. Personally, if this were the binary between the cheap razor and the pricey razor, I like to be positioned at a premium rate. I do. I personally like to attract the type of people who are willing to pay a premium and detract people who are looking for a quick and not as high quality experience. I like to attract people who are willing to pay a premium. And that's just me, and that's fine. So I think for you, it's just deciding, don't let self-doubt decide. Do not let the scarcity mindset and think you're not gonna make enough decide. You decide how you want to be positioned within the market that you have studied and are aware of. Now, next question is a very personal one if you are Arab, okay? My Arab baddies listening to this. Should I be giving friends and family discounts? Oh my God. I have so many opinions. I have so many opinions about this. I first want to let you know that when you discount something or even use the word discount, it makes people feel like they're having a discounted experience. So I personally have found no success in giving friends or family things for free or at a discount. I've actually had a family member beg me to charge them full price because they literally said verbatim, I feel like if I pay you full price, I'm gonna get the best experience from you. Have I discounted things? Have I given people 10%, 15%? Yes, personally, I have made that executive decision to give people even up to 20% if they are friends or family. I usually do this when they don't ask because personally, the entitlement makes me feel not aligned with doing that. I don't really want to work with someone who is entitled to a discount from me, but I do like to do it sometimes if I feel like I'm having a really good experience with that person. So obviously that is a decision that you can make. I really hope that you're not making it out of obligation. I know there's hype and you get embarrassed, but personally, I would have the very real conversation with your friends or family around supporting your business. At the end of the day, if they are not entrepreneurs, they get a check every 2 weeks and it is consistent and they know exactly what is going to be on that check. As an entrepreneur, not only is discounting or giving freebies out a hit to the revenue that we can make every month, but it is also taking away time, valuable time that we could be spending making money working with another client or selling a product to another person. So that is something, I know that's a difficult conversation, but I'm not a huge fan of giving friends and family discounts. Number one, for the sustainability of my business, but number two, because it actually discounts the value in their mind of their experience, whether it's with the product or a service. How can I feel confident about my price without feeling like I need to back out after I say it? I'm scared to announce my price because I think I'm gonna freak out when I say it out loud. This is so real. I'll tell you all a story of when I first created a service offering that was $7,500 for a day and a half of my work. Now, I want to emphasize it like that because I know a lot of us attach dollar signs to time spent. This is probably the most backwards thing that all of us need to stop doing, because if I can give you the same product or same service in a fraction of the time, that is actually worth more because I'm literally saving you time. I'm saving you time, and as long as the quality of that product is not jeopardized by me doing it in a shorter time, I should be compensated for turning something around for you in a way shorter time. I should be compensated for that. So when I first got on a sales call with a client and they asked me how much it would be to help them create their online course in a day and a half, I get them all set up on Kajabi, which is the software that I recommend, with their new digital products. And I even help them enroll their first 10 students. To me, it's like even a 5-figure product now that I think of it. Like I'm helping them create a digital product that has no ceiling on the sales that they can make with it. And when I got on the call with that client, they asked me how much it was, and I said $7,500. And I did not blink. I did not flinch. I did not feel, I just didn't let my self-doubt creep into that conversation and make me do things like $7,500, but there's a payment plan, but if that's too much, but, and it's like you're apologizing. Stop apologizing. You feel good about this price. You need to feel unattached to the person's reaction. If they're like, oh yeah, no, I can't afford that, cool. Like you don't need to say sorry about that. There's so much shame, especially as Arab women, around money. You don't need to be ashamed of the fact that you are being compensated for the work and the value that you are bringing. If that person cannot make it work, I mean, at the end of the day, they can't make it work. I do offer a payment plan, but at the end of the day, like I would mention that not in an apologetic way, just in a here are the facts type of way, and let that person as the adult make their own decision. People don't want to be pitied. So if you're like acting weird about price, it's almost kind of insulting, as if you're assuming that they can't pay it. Now, I did have another question that someone asked about, should I be concerned, or how concerned should I be about offering my services to low-income communities? This is an amazing question. And in order to be equitable and inclusive, I actually have a great solution, especially if you are a service-based business, but it could actually work for products as well. I'm gonna go back to the spiel I just gave on how we are entrepreneurs. If we are doing this full-time, this is our bread and butter. If you are not at the point where you can invest back into your business and, you know, maybe give some things out as a scholarship or for a prorated rate for low-income communities, if that is gonna hurt your business, you are not helping anybody by giving things out for free or by discounting things so much that it hurts your business. So an awesome alternative that ensures you and your greatness can stay in business, but people who are marginalized can still benefit from your product or service is to find somebody rich and have them purchase a set of scholarships if you have an online program, a set of scholarships if you have a service, or even a product. Like have them purchase a set number of products, especially during the holidays. People are always willing to be charitable in this way and be like, hey, I actually don't want this for myself, but I'm willing to purchase 5 of your products for people who can't afford them. I'm willing to sponsor 5 students to have this experience because I think that your service is so valuable and I'm willing to pay you up front. And so what happens is this sponsor pays you up front. You are still getting that money into your business so that you could reserve a certain number of services or products for people who are in socioeconomically disadvantaged situations where they're still able to get that and you're not taking the financial hit for doing that. So I would highly recommend seeking out local sponsors or people in your community who are willing to support the community through that type of investment. Next question. How can I stand my ground with a price and explain it to customers? This kind of builds off of the confidence question. You have to stand your ground internally. All of these imaginary scenarios that you're creating in your head of clients acting weird or clients giving you an attitude for your price, all of these imaginary scenarios are just a root of your anxiety. You are ashamed. There's a lot of shame around money and a lot of shame around pricing. And that shame is getting into your head and making you think that you need to stand your ground and, maybe even overcompensate and have an attitude when you're giving your prices. People feel that energy. If you approach the price as a non-dramatic thing and it's just a matter of fact, these are my rates, people are going to feed off of your energy. They're not going to act crazy if you're acting like this is a perfectly normal price. I'm at the point where my prices are so normalized to me that when people ask me how much do I charge for a one-day VIP service, I can say $5,000 without blinking. I feel proud to sell at that rate. And that's why I bring us all the way back to that first tip that I mentioned. Find a number that feels good. Because if you feel good when you are announcing your rates or on a sales call with a client and telling them what your numbers are or posting them on your website, if you feel good and proud of that, you're not going to care how people approach you about them. But more importantly, people aren't going to approach you about them because 9 times out of 10, when people try to haggle with you or when people try to give you an attitude, if they do, about your rates, it's because they sense your shame. When you're telling them it, you're maybe giving you're qualifying, or your body language is all insecure, and maybe you're shrinking because you feel awkward, and that lets them know that there's something wrong. It sets their alarms off, and then they start to question you. So I know you can imagine a situation where you've been told a rate and someone was extremely confident, and maybe it was way more than you could afford or were willing to pay, but you didn't feel the need to question them or demean them. You just realized that it was misaligned, and that's it. So I really want to challenge you that standing your ground just means finding a number that you're proud of and letting your body language exude the pride and alignment that you feel. And you should not be explaining your price to anybody. You should not be explaining your price. It should be clear in your marketing, the value and the benefit. Okay, so I hope that that's clear. Do not feel the need to explain or justify or over-explain, because that's coming from a place of fear and misalignment. However, your marketing should make very clear how this product or service is going to transform this person's life, even if it's, I paid almost $200 for a frying pan. It's the Always pan, and it's my favorite pan, and I love it. And I paid it twice, actually. I bought 2 of them. And the transformation that it creates in my life is that it enables me to live a less cluttered lifestyle and instead of having this tanjara and this pan and all, we've all seen it, the crazy cluttered kitchen. Instead of living that, this pan is basically like a 10-in-1 for me. And when they put that marketing on their website and literally said, we help you, they said something like that, this pan replaces 7 kitchen items. It was so obvious. I didn't care. It could have been $500. I probably would have figured out how to buy that pan because I valued that transformation and that solution so heavily. I bet you one of our khaltos thinks I'm crazy. Any one of our khaltos is looking at this girl why do you only have 1 pan? We need this one, and we need this one, and we need this one. And that's because the pain point that she's experiencing is different than mine. She's making food for the whole village or the whole block, and she's not gonna pay that much for 1 pan because she actually needs all of these pans. And so she's gonna be looking for the big box that has 27 different frying pans because she's just at that level. You are creating a product or service that is aligned to the right person. The same way that my values aligned with the Our Place pan, you're gonna have someone whose values so clearly align with your product or your service to where it's gonna be a no-brainer once you're able to show them this value, once you're able to show them your values, once you're able to show them that your product or service solves a very real, painful problem in their life. Okay, so approach it from a place of alignment and not from a place of fear. Next question is, should I be using specific rules to price my products? I want to be priced economically, but also feel good. I love this question. I addressed it a little bit earlier. I want to reiterate what I said. The rules that you should be using to price your products is that it needs to feel good and sustainable for you. That is literally like, just throw every other rule out the window and find a price. To your last point, I want to be priced economically. That's very relative. What's economical for me is not economical for Bill Gates and is not economical for a high school or even college student. Economical is extremely arbitrary, and your business and you as the entrepreneur stay in business because you feel good, because it is sustainable. You're not getting burnt out. You're not feeling like, what is the point of this? I'm barely breaking even. You need money. Money is literally oxygen to your business. And so I would really emphasize the feel good part over the economically part, because economically is going to look different from person to person to person. Which brings me to the final point in this video. There is this whole conversation of how do I know what my audience is willing to pay? Listen, baddie, you don't really know until you put a product out into market and gauge their willingness to pay. Now, there's two ways to figure out willingness to pay. The first way is the most common way, and it's to look at your current audience. Who follows me? Who's typically buying in this industry? And start to assume, there's a lot of assumptions, a price point that is good for them, or even worse, you ask them. People do not know. People think that they're like, yeah, if this was $10, there's no way I'd buy it. And then like that night they're on Amazon, not even Amazon. That night they get an Instagram ad for the same product, and it's just marketed in a way that really attracts them. And it's $30 and they pay for it. People have no idea what their true willingness to pay is, because we are not very active thinkers as consumers. Things happen oftentimes very passively. We don't actually realize why we purchase things. So I actually do not prefer this approach of looking at your target audience, or even worse, asking your target audience how much they would be willing to pay for a product, because it keeps you trapped in this corner of how much these people are willing to pay. I would say the more empowered way of pricing is to pick that number. Again, pick the number that feels good. Go back to that first tip that I said, pick the number that feels good, and then find the people that are willing to pay for it. They might look different than your current audience, and that's okay. You can start to grow a new audience around the people who value what it would take to pay for your service or your product. And my whole brand is about helping you find ideal dream clients. And if this sounds better to you, instead of feeling trapped around the willingness to pay of your current audience or what you're currently charging right now. Let's say you have a e-commerce store and you were pricing at maybe 50% margins, and now you've built this reputation as the person who charges this much, and you're getting around the same amount of customers, but you're feeling like you want to raise your prices. Raise your prices and start finding the people who are attracted to that pricing, learning from those people, understanding what it is that drives them to pay even more for your product or service, and start speaking to them. The more you start creating content for them, the more you start speaking to them in your marketing, the more they will come to your business and never complain about how much they're paying. So I know this was a lot of information, and I'm sure that from all of these responses, you still have questions, and I would love to answer them. Drop any of those questions below. I would love to hear what mindset shifts this has taken you through. I'd love to hear what questions you still have as a result of hearing some of this advice. Do you agree with this advice? Do you disagree and think I'm crazy? I'd love to hear any of it. And I want to thank you so much for watching, and tune in again next time.